Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are tuned in to the Vitamin D with Dawn Dai podcast, and I am your host, Dawn Dai, here to get you excited about your life so that you can live life on purpose and for a purpose. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Vitamin D, it's a pun of my name. My name is Dawn, and you get vitamin D from the sun, so I'm here to shed light into your life. And I do this with inspirational insights and conversations with celebrities and everyday people like you and me. Because if you want to be better and you want to do better, then you're going to have to be able to see better. So join me on this journey of living our best lives and understanding and realizing how you are your greatest asset. I think it's completely normal to want more out of life, to want bigger, to want better, to just want more abundance. But I gotta ask you something. How are you working with what you got? Like, what's happening with the home that you have now, or that apartment and you aspire to have that bigger home, or to sign a mortgage for a home? How are you doing with your car? Are you taking care of the one that you got before you ask for this brand new one? I ask that because I think oftentimes we don't get exactly what we want out of life at the time that we want it because perhaps we aren't ready for it. Perhaps we aren't taking care of what we have now, yet we're asking for more. You heard people say, you gotta be faithful over a little in order to be faithful over a lot. So what are you showing your faithful over? I can say it myself. I've declared this year, I said, I'm ready to move into a new place. I'm ready. I want multiple bedrooms. I want to have a room for my studio, to do my voiceovers, to film videos. I also want to have a guest room. And I want to have my personal bedroom. I want stainless steel appliances. I want my place to be modern. But I said, Dawn, how are you showing faithfulness over your one bedroom right now? You know, I've been in my apartment for about what? Oh my gosh. Is it going to be 6 years this year? And probably because of the state, my mind of where I was, I had never taken time to decorate it. I had never taken time to make it my own. Honestly, I probably have never taken time to make my apartment feel like my apartment. Yet here I am saying, God, I want more. God, I want bigger. God, I want better. But Dawn, how are you showing your faithfulness over what you have right now? How is it that we get in this state where we're asking for more, yet we're not showing that we're taking care of what we have right now? It's like that whole thing of like growing and stretching, like we're asking for exceedingly and beyond, but how are you being faithful over what you have? Are you being patient? Have you given it a chance? Listen, it's okay to want more, but remember, you gotta be faithful over a little in order to be faithful over a lot. Don't stop dreaming. Don't stop believing. But make sure you take care of what you have right now.
Get your vitamin D right here with me and get excited about your life.
All right, it's that time. I'm diving into an advice letter. Okay, here we go. Subject, I love you, but I don't want to live with you. Dear Dawn, how do I tell my partner that I'm just not ready to move in without him blowing up at me? Okay, a little background. I met this awesome guy 3 years ago at a paint and sip event that me and my girlfriends went to. It was fun, and then the fact that I was getting charmed by this Italian hunk made it even better. Suffice to say, we hit it off and have been dating ever since. We've been exclusive for about a year, and now he's telling me that he wants to move in together. Now, you haven't met my boyfriend, but he's not particularly direct. He's often dropping subtle hints about what he wants or needs. It's frustrating, yes, but I've kind of learned how to deal with it and how to move and communicate with him. We make it work, right? So recently, he's just been dropping these hints like, oh, it'd be nice to see you every day. Or, don't you ever wonder what it'd be like to design a place together? Normally, I'd say that this is great. If you'd asked me 2 years ago or 5, you'd get me jumping at the gills to get out of my lease. The thing is, I don't want to move. Like, yes, I love him. I definitely want to be with him. But this situation has shown me that I kind of just like the way that I am with him now. I don't know if this is something that happens when you turn 30, but I just feel like I'm good with my space. And the idea of sharing it with someone that I'm attached to emotionally is too much. Like, yes, I have roommates, but I didn't know them when I moved in. And if push came to shove, I wouldn't feel bad leaving them. But him, if it goes bad, that would ruin me. So what do you think, Dawn? How should I tell my man that I don't want to move in, but that I still love him? Girl, you're going to have to be honest. I am a stickler on communication. Communicate. Now, I'm not saying that the relationship is in a bad space. No, I don't see any red flags with the fact that you don't want to or you're feeling uncomfortable about moving in. Where I see a red flag is, how are you guys going to communicate? The fact that you feel unnerved about letting him know, it's nothing wrong with that. But my concern is that you don't feel that it's a safe space to communicate. And then on top of that, you're telling me that since day one, he probably hasn't been the ideal communicator. Now, one thing I've learned, and I've said this about myself, is I'm learning to see the gray area. Everything's not black and white. So no, everybody's not going to do everything by the book and how things are quote unquote supposed to go. But I do think in a relationship that there is a point where there should be a level of comfortability and a level of working it out, because you can't go about any other way of answering this and moving on with your relationship without being direct. Because what I say all the time is, how you do anything is how you'll do everything. And if you don't want to move in, just say, hey, baby, I don't want to move in. In fact, my old barber, I used to have short blonde hair. This was kind of like his situation. It wasn't like, there weren't any communication issues, but he's a man that's in his mid-40s. And the woman that he's dating, she's in her mid-40s. And they're at a stage right now where they are comfortable in living in their own places. And it could be the same thing. You just kind of get to a point where you're used to things being how they are. Not having to worry about who's in a room over there, who's doing what. My thing is what works for you. Now, could it be a situation where a couple of days out the week you go stay over there? I don't know. But the thing is, if you know what you don't want, that's going to tell him what you do want. And what you want right now is to stay at your place. And what you don't want is to be at his. I think the best thing is just to sit down and have a conversation and let him know where you stand. And even before even entertaining the idea of moving in together, sharing space under one roof, y'all gonna have to learn how to communicate better. Because what's gonna happen? You're gonna get upset, or let's just say if he's upset about if you didn't close the refrigerator all the way, or God forbid you walked out the room and you didn't cut the lights off. Well, he gonna make subtle hints walking around stumping and shutting lights off and got an attitude, then what? Then yes, that whole thing where you said how emotions get in the way and attitudes, that can be a downfall. But guess what? You don't have to wait to move in for something like that to happen. Now, I'm glad to hear that you guys have been together for 3 years, exclusive for 1. And so far, from what I read, it doesn't sound like there has been any communication issues. But how do we really know? Because I'm wondering, how well are you guys communicating? Does he have any idea how uncomfortable you are, or the idea that you may not want to move in with him? I don't know. At what point did you say being direct? And then it's interesting. Now, why did you say that he was going to blow up at you? Does he have an anger issue? Because for him to go to subtle to blowing up, that's a 180. Because I feel like, sometimes when people leave a subtle thing, those are the type of people that don't want to say too much. They don't want to stir the pot too much. They don't want to cause no confusion, like it's going to be okay. But you saying brother man might go from 0 to 100 real quick. Is that what y'all dealing with? And I'm not surprised at that, because while people who are usually subtle may not say anything or, drop subtle hints, their way of saying a subtle hint is a big thing. Now, those who may not say nothing at all, and then one day they just go off the Richter, is that the case that's going to happen here? I mean, and it also depends on if you are comfortable with that situation. But now that I'm talking, I'm wondering, is there some trauma that you're carrying? And part of me, this is just me figuring this out as I'm talking to you, because why would you feel like he's going to blow up? Has there anything else that you felt like you wanted to share with him that you didn't? Where is this relationship going? Is this just a date? Are you looking for marriage? Are you looking for possibly to have children, or just for the time being? The reason why I'm asking this is because where do you see the relationship growing after this? Like, what's next? I mean, because if right now, I guess the next move for him is to move in with each other, cohabitate. But if that's not what you want, what are you looking at? You want to keep things as is? Because I think also why it's so important for you to communicate with him, because if that's what he wants and that's not something that you can provide him, let him make the decision to move on if need be. I think communication also is a means of freedom. It's the ability allowing somebody to give them a choice. When you're not communicating, you don't give people a choice, and that's not fair. It's not the fact that this man is loving on you and saying, hey, babe, now whether he's saying it's subtle, whether you're saying it's a subtle hint, it's received, you caught it. And for you to feel differently and not express that to him. I think more importantly is that you have to be comfortable with expressing yourself, whether that's you moving in, whether it's that you deciding you want to have children with him, you don't, whether or not you're interested in traveling, I don't know, but you have to be able to communicate. And it's so big because I said this before, how I've always prided myself on having excellent communication skills. And as I'm growing and developing, as I'm figuring out my level of vulnerability and what vulnerability looks like and what it feels like to me, I realize that not only is it about letting people in, but it's showing up to let myself out. And you're going to have to show up and say what it is that you want, or in this case, what you don't want.
Hey, what's up? It's Anthony Hamilton.
Hey, it's Anami Lewis.
And you're listening to
Vitamin D with
Dawn Dai.
My goodness, I don't want you to be afraid to communicate. And because you do love him, that's why you need to tell him that. You don't want to keep prolonging this and then he starts to create stories because, hey, we're all guilty of creating stories. And it causes some other confusion. Because what if it is best that you guys stay in your own home? Like my barber, he said everything works out fine. We spend our time together and now we can go to our own space. In fact, I've even heard that some married couples, after they've gotten divorced, they become the best of friends. Hell, you probably think they're together more now that they've separated and live in separate homes than they were when they were together. Sometimes people operate in their own space. And as you get older, as you live a little longer, you get comfortable in your space. And you don't want everybody in your space. So, like I said before, I said again, how you do anything is how you do everything. The first question that I have for you is, what do you see your future looking like with this man? What does it look like? Because if it's something that you want to continue as far as even just being in a relationship with him, you need to ask yourself, and you need to ponder on the fact of whether or not how comfortable you are with him. And that's probably comfortable in communicating, comfortable in expressing and sharing who you are. There's nothing to be ashamed about that. So, yes, love him enough to communicate. Sit down, make him some dinner. But make sure you do it face to face. And tell him how you feel. Versus saying like, I don't want to. Tell him how you feel. Like, hey, babe, I know you've been throwing these hints. We've been together this amount of time, and it sounds like you want to move in. But give yourself space to say whether or not you feel comfortable, or in this case, how uncomfortable you feel about it and why. Because it's just not a blanketed no, it's why. And then you give him the choice to say, hey, let me put my feelings in check to say if I want to continue on with this. But it becomes selfish if you don't tell him that because you feel as though you're operating in a space where you don't want to hurt him. That's selfish because now you've taken the situation under your control because you feel like you know what's best rather than giving somebody else an opportunity to choose. And I feel like that's what love is. Love is that free that it's going to give you a moment to choose what it is that you want. So, miss, what do you want? And more importantly, what does it look like? So that's what I say. I say you tell him. I say you communicate. Because the communication is the lifeline to every relationship. It's a sending and a receiving. And once that's cut off, how are we connected? I'm just saying. Okay? All right. So, now it's that time. I got to dive into the Vita Chest. Because if you thought I was going to leave out of here after this advice letter without a Vita Chest word, you had it all twisted. Okay? Jeremiah, I hope you got my sound effect ready. He threw his hands up, so he has it ready. All right, let's open it up. I love that sound. Okay. Maybe this could be for you since you wrote this advice letter. I don't know because I don't know what word I'm going to pull out, but I'm going to see if I can cater it to you. Okay. Oh, the word is pivot. Maybe this can work for you. Maybe this can work for both of you. So we know pivot. In fact, I was just working on my pivot. You know, I've been boxing or whatever. Bop, bop, jab, jab, cross hook, uppercut, boom, hook. It's like, no, but I've been working on my boxing, and the move that I've been working on is that pivot. And a pivot isn't just a slight turn. A pivot is a complete shift. And as I relate this to the vitamin D, this advice letter I just read, sometimes we have to look at our relationships and we have to evaluate our surroundings and figure out where the pivot is. A pivot to me reminds me of something that's not a period, it's a comma. It's just a change in direction. It's a different angle to view something. And depending on where you are in your life, depending on what kind of relationship you're in, depending on what type of job position you're in, the question is it time for you to pivot? Is it time for you to make a shift? I didn't say stop. I said make a shift in the way you communicate, a shift in the way you do things, a shift in the way you work, a shift in the way you approach your dreams, just a shift in general. Shifts are good because shifts promote changes. And when you can pivot, you allow flexibility. When you can pivot, it allows movement. Because of this pivot, you permit yourself to grow. So that's what I would say a pivot is. Welcome the pivots in your life. Sometimes the pivot is show you something that you've never seen before. It's almost like turning your head. It's almost like having peripheral vision. It's almost like that thing that you're looking down and you can look up. And you know, if you can look up, you can get up. Okay, so I want to welcome in the pivots, because we pivot into a new thing. And for the young lady that wrote this letter, I want you to pivot in the way you move in your relationship. Maybe before you allowed him to have subtle hints. Maybe now it's time for you to be more direct and do not operate in fear. I'm not going back, but I just want to say that. That's how I'm going to apply that pivot there, okay? All right. And listen, if you enjoyed that vitamin D advice letter, I want to encourage you to email us at VitaminD@DawnDaiSpeaks.com, okay? I'm gonna be clear with you. Just like I kept it real wire, I didn't sugarcoat and say, hey girl, just say it. I said, listen, you need to learn how to communicate. Just as much as he needs to learn how to communicate, you need to learn how to communicate. That is what I'm going to give you. Because what do I say? If you want to be better and you want to do better, you're going to have to be able to see better. And that's how you're going to see better with this. And that's how I do it in my advice letters. Also, I want to encourage you, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or perhaps you have a topic or idea, email us, VitaminD@DawnDaiSpeaks.com, okay? I would love to hear from you. And also, you know, my livelihood is on this dream right here. This vitamin D with Dawn Dai. This is my dream. This is it. This is it. Like Michael Jackson said. So if you enjoy it, can you tell somebody to tell somebody? The Vitamin D with Dawn Dai is available wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We just shine a light out here. We want to help somebody to help somebody to help somebody else. So can you do that for me? Can you tell somebody to tell somebody else that we speak in life over here? I'd appreciate it. And when you're not listening to the podcast, you know we're on all social media, right? VitaminDDawnDai. Check us out. Follow us. We on YouTube. We on TikTok. We on Instagram. We on Twitter. We on Facebook. We out here. And you can check out clips from our previous interviews. You can catch me out pictures and flicks of me in the studio. You know, sometimes we doing photo shoots. You can catch whatever you're not seeing visually when you listen to the podcast. You getting all that and more on the social media. All right. So that's just another way for you to contact us. And you know we'd love to hear from you. Okay. All right. Well, I'm about to head out of here. And I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you remember to love on yourself. I hope you remember to live life on purpose and for a purpose. I hope you remember that you're not going to get out of this life alive. So you better get excited about it, okay? All right, so keep your head up. You know I say, I'm in the business of making dreams come true. And I damn sure ain't going to forget about mine. So until next time, always remember, you are your greatest asset.
Get your vitamin D right here with me and get excited